Why don't we start with just each of us introducing ourselves quickly. Paul, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So yeah, I'm Paul Soliman. I'm the co-founder and CEO of BayaniChain. We're a Manila-based company. So we are a truth layer of infusing blockchain and AI to do assurance 3.0 to technically do auditable and self-correcting internet later.
Thank you. Haslina?
I'm Haslina Taib. I used to chair the Asean back for Brunei. I've seen a lot of these. Prior to that, I was advisory council for APAC, and I've seen a lot of these transitions from legacy system, innovation. Today, I advise a board to wire blockchain and AI. My rate has just gone up just by saying that. So what I did was look at ERP, look at finance, look at compliance, etc., and then actually put token and AI into real operations. So not so much of building AI itself, but putting AI and renting it into the legacy system. What I found, I now move from one region to another. I'm in Southeast Asia until summer, and now I'm in the UK. I'm working with US, and you see the changes that is moving, and it's really important for this region to understand that it's not about new technology, it's about integration. It's important because we have got digital ID now, we've got ESG data, we've got credential. Brunei is actually was actually doing ASEAN credential, and that's really important. I was speaking to a few people here, the importance of credential, onboarding tokenization, right? So token should represent real activities, and then AI, like we hear earlier, then interpret them or analyze them into in real terms. So we need to onboard token and AI into our world now. So the idea is not to recreate or replace or disrupt. The idea is to actually put a trusted layer on top of what we already have.
Thank you, Haslina. And Azhar as well?
I'm Azhar Abu Talib, the CEO of My Blockchain Infrastructure. So basically, we are a new entity set up by MIMOS Berhad. So MIMOS Berhad is a government agency. So we are being mandated by the Ministry of Science of Malaysia to actually operate something called a Malaysia Blockchain Infrastructure. So we are not a ledger company, so we don't actually own an L1. We work with players like Ztrix and all that. So they are our major contributor. So we are agnostic in terms of the infrastructure itself. So the idea for us is, especially on behalf of government of Malaysia, is to become a layer that interoperates with the whole ecosystem of blockchain and work with the apps player, especially the decentralized app players, and also the L1 that exists here in Malaysia, and deliver that to the government. So that's our major objective.
Got it. Thank you. So there are lots of potential use cases to blockchain technology. Anybody who has been following the sector knows that. One of those is verifying information. I think everybody on the panel has worked a little bit on that facet of the blockchain. I think Azhar and Haslina, you've both been involved in projects where verifying credentials is the sort of the core aim. Could you tell us a bit more about those, each of you? What specific technology providers were you working with, and why in those instances was it right that blockchain was the technology that you decided to use in order to, I suppose, verify credentials better than what you could have done without it?
Haslina? Okay. So for us, it's actually very simple. What Malaysia blockchain? Let me explain a little bit. What is our theme? So Malaysia blockchain infrastructure. One of the theme is basically creating a digital trust fabric. So the idea of digital trust fabrics, so we are not focused on the crypto side, but we wanted to create an infrastructure where the community can actually build trust around it. So there's three pillars of trust that we believe in. One is the trusted credentials, that's what you mentioned just now, Ryan. The second portion is trusted transactions. The third portion is trusted data. So all these play a key role for the infrastructure itself. So we build that ecosystem with our partners and also with our layer one providers, with our ledgers and all that. And we provide with another partner ecosystem, connector or bridges to the government ecosystem. So that's how we want to issue the credential. See, government has built huge ecosystem. I mean, they spend a lot of money building, using SAPs, Oracles, all that. They're not going to change immediately overnight. So we need to build connectors so that they are willing to actually cross into the Web3 ecosystem. So that's what we do. We start first credential, as Haslina mentioned just now. It's a must. With that, every other transaction becomes seamless. So that's how we start, and then Malaysia itself has an entity called My Digital ID. So together with our partners, we're trying to approach them to cross the bridge to move to a Web3 ecosystem running on blockchain.
But why move in the first place? Is it the immutability factor?
That's one of the reasons. One of the other reason is the part where you can actually preserve your privacy through the ZKP protocols. So this is what we believe in. Today in Malaysia, the government has been discussing, is it possible to actually say, for example, for social media purposes, only basically have an age limit for using social media. So, but in order to introduce that without actually having your privacy data, just giving it publicly, so how do you approach that? This is why we believe blockchain and with other protocols and all that, together with blockchain, can solve that problem.
Paul, I'll come to you, but Haslina, what about the project you've been involved in that's sort of in a similar area?
It's ASEAN. It's amazing because I'll talk about ASEAN because this is what we're sponsoring about, right? It's lovely that Malaysia has started AI, Singapore, and many other countries, 11 in ASEAN now, will need to take part. But with the way technology is progressing really fast, right? ASEAN in itself are blocks that need to be chained, that need to be linked. So hopefully next year, Philippines will looking at, well, the credential that I have, the problem I have is there's no standards across ASEAN, and SME do cross-border transaction, right? So Malaysia can actually do its own tokenization, its own AI, but what does it mean when I trade with my next door neighbor, right? And it happens today. SME, it happens today. What's the point of my credential when it's not really shared with my neighbor? So you need, I dare say, Southeast Asia needs a shared, a design for Southeast Asia. The design, it should be built for digital infrastructure. So that the credential can then be used for conservation, for whatever you want to do that is quite common. In Brunei, in Borneo, for example, what I was trying to do is to actually look at conservation and put the conservation effort, get funding from the conservation, channel it to the communities by tokenized public ledger, right? So having smart ledgers.
Why does this shared system that you describe, why does it need to be a blockchain?
So blockchain, in terms of tokenization, right? It's quite a taboo thing at the moment. I hope Philippines will actually digest it a little. Exactly. So I talked to Level 1 blockchain. It's actually funded by big giants, and they are just so full of it, right? They're just pushing it. The problem with the US is so technology oriented. Let's see if the integration to the real world work or not. Because at the end of the day, it depends on my network, right? It depends on my credential, eKYC. How transferable is that in KYC? That's why it's important for us to have a Southeast digital transformation. Need a digital infrastructure. You don't need to do fantastic thing. You don't need to be champion. You just need to link. You need to connect using token. It has to be with token because it's immutable. You can actually trace eKYC. You can actually look at the token. You cannot escape if you are tokenized, right? So in conservation, you can see every single token is used for what. So it's traceability.
Traceability, okay, got it. And Paul, coming to you on a similar theme. So you're involved in this project in the Philippines, which is about tokenizing sorry, not tokenizing, but putting public finances on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Could you describe that in a little bit more detail?
Sure, sure. Well, we can use the term tokenization. In fact, if you use non-fungible token or fungible token, it's technically whatever you put on chain, it's being tokenized, right? So 3 years ago, we started exploring a project with our Department of Budget and Management, which is, by the way, who disperse and plan the funds to be used of the other governments in the Philippines, let's say police, health, etc. So this is the problem that we're trying to solve. How do you now create a budgeting system that is censorship resistant, right? So the joke now in the Philippines is, even though Halloween is not there yet, we have a lot of ghost projects, right? And it's all over the news, right? This, the corruption issue and the flood control, etc. It's all there. What we're seeing today, if only we've implemented some sort of like blockchain infrastructure, even public or private blockchain, like 5 years or 3 years ago, because we just got live July this year. You can visit blockchain.dbmgov.ph. You can see our system there. But rewind like 5 years ago, if we did place a permanent ledger for these documents alone, right? We should be avoiding that kind of issue, right? The simple way to destroy evidence in the Philippines is by putting salt in the computer, right? That's super primitive, right? But you can always in a way prevent that by just using a super simple use case. Put every document on chain, whatever is in private, put it on a private blockchain, or an SQL that is append only. Whatever needs to be censorship resistant should be put on multi-chain or multiple public blockchain, let's say Ethereum or Polygon, etc. So that's what we're currently doing. And
so to be clear, those documents, they would then exist as assets on chain, free from sort of interference from any kind of centralized authority, and the public, should they wish to, could in 5 years' time take a look at them and say, well, that never went anywhere.
Yes, yeah. The plan is like, in a way to some sort of like force the FOI, freedom of information, because if you put information on chain, it will be automatically FOI, right? Because you don't need permission from the government for you to be able to get data. And then later on, you create your own AI agents that can maybe, look for fraud or look for, maybe overpriced project, something like that. So that's really what the government is trying to do right now. And we're helping them to kind of like democratize the way that people validates data.
Very interesting. I wanted to ask as my sort of second round of questions about the ASEAN context, but I feel like we've touched on it quite a bit already. But is there anything else about the context of blockchain implementation in the ASEAN region, in Malaysia, that makes blockchain a particularly well-suited technology to some of the problems that we're discussing?
Sure. Well,
that's just to all three of you.
Yeah, I mean, so technically, I think right now we're using verifiable credentials, documents, etc. But the next big thing there is, so there are two AI agents, for example, that transacting with each other, right? Let's say for me, I'm gonna get a passport, but I'm using my AI agent to transact with. Maybe that's gonna be 5 or 10 years from now. The protocol or the design needs to be on chain. So technically, two AI agents, me and your AI agents, or every one of us, will transact with each other with the same protocol. And of course, if we're talking about people level use case, in the Philippines, we have this 4-piece that we give, let's say, 5,000 pesos to those people that cannot afford education, right? So imagine like AI agents distributing those funds to the correct people that needs to receive it. So something like that. So it's a combination of
dystopian.
Stablecoin, AI, etc.
Yes, where it's sort of the kind of scenario where you can imagine sort of finances dished out by the government being very carefully tracked and coming with clauses and things like this, which is another thing you hear about, isn't it? Okay. Any other examples in the ASEAN context?
I think I've seen a lot of system implementation, system re-implementation. We always work in silos. ASEAN is a chance for us to actually do something different, right? So we could work together, shared common asset, token, many tokens, but shared common standards, like I said. Open framework is really important, agnostic to whichever platform you're using on level 1. Payment infrastructure is something that all the young people, I'm also, well, I'm not young, but they're all very interested in payment infrastructure because it attracts money. But we are talking about sustainability, right? And as soon as you talk about sustainability, everyone in the US said, we don't want to get involved, right? Because there's no money in it. There's no standards in how to actually tokenize carbon. There's no standard in trying to tokenize net zero conservation. Take a simple conservation, what we're doing in Borneo. There is no standards. So no one believe in it. No one wanting to put money in it, right? So we need to have an ASEAN credential that does 2 things. One is the SME, cross-border payments, because it attracts money. The other one, to actually, twin it, is the conservation, so that the local people, the community can actually benefit from it. They can see how the big factory in the community can then bring it back to what conservation looked like in the villages, for example.
Okay. That seems a good chance to segue into regulation more broadly. Crypto trading is obviously a very tightly regulated thing, particularly here in Malaysia. I think it falls under the securities regime.
Yeah.
Blockchain experimentation, more specifically, seems relatively open. It's fairly easy for companies and government agencies to at least experiment with the blockchain. Is that about right, Azhar?
Correct. I think blockchain as a technology is actually quite open as all the other technologies. Only on the crypto side, that's where there's a slight concern, because we are a little bit cautious in terms of the investment side. But in terms of technology, we are very open. Just to talk a little bit about the ASEAN context, I think Haslina has mentioned about the essential of the credentials for cross-border. If you talk about ASEAN a little bit, right, we have to think about the context of the pure digital services when we're talking about ASEAN. So that in the future, the services might not be rendered here in Malaysia alone. It can be in the ASEAN region. Maybe at one point, telemedicine, if I like a doctor in Singapore and all that, I can do a telemedicine, but purchase over the counter at the pharmacy side, right? So I can have that service. But without a framework that all of us can agree upon, then we cannot move. If my ID cannot be recognized somewhere in Singapore, Thailand, or Philippines and all that, we cannot render that services. Today, I give you an example. For the energy services, in Malaysia alone, 100%, we do not actually have our energy consumed 100%. This is for ESG perspective. Our local, we source it out from, the TNB, our local energy provider here, is a national company. So we source it out from, say, for example, hydro in somewhere else. So imagine if you want to do ESG, from the ESG perspective, how do I track those, especially cross-border? And how do I see that it's coming from this particular country, a solar farm in Indonesia probably? So how do we do that? But we need a framework so that each of us can actually agree upon. So
It's to convert that trust, right, into code.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
fractionalizing it, no tokenizing it. It's not speculation at all. There's no chance for speculation. If there is an asset back, real world asset is backing it. Don't have to trade, right? It could just be in circulation. It could be divided into 2, public and private. So if we focus on that, right, having tokenization to do ESG, to do conservation, it's a real good project to start with.
Okay.
In tokenization and blockchain.
This push for standards in the region, is the US's embrace of crypto a sort of an impetus for this to happen more quickly? It does seem as though there's movement on the regulatory front in Malaysia specifically on crypto and blockchain recently. Is it just that it was time for that to happen anyway, or is Donald Trump, going full-blown crypto in the US a big factor?
I was joking to Fazli just now. I was hoping when President Donald Trump arrived here in Malaysia and all that. And he started talking about cryptos a little bit and all that, hype it up, and then, then the industry,
You thought he might join the panel.
But yes, I believe, yes, that is correct. That's a statement. And because of his guiding what's happening in the States, it's actually impacting us also.
And he's getting really behind stablecoins as well, right?
He's got his own coin, right?
He's got his own coin,
yeah.
but he sees stablecoins as a vehicle for sort of promoting the dollar, and that seemingly is a big impetus for countries around the world to, basically put together some sort of regime to govern the issuance of local currency denominated stablecoins as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Philippines, I think we have 2 crypto policies. I mean, the other one, the newest one with the SEC, was released when Donald Trump became a president, because the Genius Act and all of this, like, crypto policy in the US. But I think so I'm not technically a crypto maxi in a way, but experimenting on a Bitcoin reserve will be, like, seeing a lot of country maybe going into that, and also RWA, real world asset, and stable coin. But what we're seeing here from our lens, like, putting information on chain, if you saw the news about US putting the GDP on the public blockchain, so that's start of something that's really happening in the US in terms of what do you now like put on the public blockchain, right? So that's a start on like, utilizing blockchain, not crypto only.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the US definitely have a big. You can play during the Philippine year anyway. I have been following a lot of level 1 blockchain. There's a lot of money, a lot of funds actually being invested in the US, and they are doing. I was doing the ASEAN credential, and they are getting advice on how to build the eKYC, etc., and how to convert into token real assets, real world assets, and tokenizing it. But again, some of the focus for the technologies is actually on the payment structure. Why not, right? The faster you get, there's some, like, they're announcing, Google and Kita was announcing, like, they can process 11 million per second at 0.001 cents, right? So if you look at how fast that is, SME can just be paid using smart contract. Yeah. There's no more saying, oh, I've delivered the service, I've delivered the asset. It's actually in Brunei, it's in Sabah, on the way to Cebu. You don't need to, because tokenization will look after it. Smart contract will look after that. You get paid instantly, right? And then the transaction cost and the speed is so fast. So that in itself benefit inclusions and in areas where not just down are actually going to benefit from tokenization.
By the way, in the Philippines, we have a total of around maybe 10 or 11 blockchain bill in the Congress and in the Senate. Okay. So most of them are putting the budget on the transparency ledger because of what's happening now. I think 3 of those are putting a Bitcoin reserve and also using crypto as retail. And because Philippine economy is morely OFW and also BPO, so they're trying to kind of like, put a safer way on how OFW will send money to the Philippines using stablecoin and other crypto.
We have less than a minute left. We journalists are obsessed with hubs. Do we think that there's the potential for Malaysia to be a crypto and blockchain hub? It has a slightly unusual crypto scene. There's a lot of back office staff from some of the very biggest exchanges based in Malaysia, but the exchanges themselves tend not to be based here. There's quite a bit of crypto mining that goes on. Do we think with the sort of policy changes that are coming down the pipe, Malaysia could establish itself as a hub?
My biased answer?
That will do.
Obviously, yes.
Yes. Okay, we can leave it there. Thank you very much to our panelists. It was a really interesting discussion, so let's give them a round of applause.